Well, I come to being an investor from the entrepreneurship side. I've grown a number of different companies over the years and have just really been engaged by building new opportunities and new companies. And I wanted to do it from the investing side as well. I wanted to be able to back the kind of companies that I wanted to see succeed and the type of entrepreneurs that I wanted to see out there building new companies. So the reason I like to back women entrepreneurs is that I see so many women creating really interesting companies. They're creating companies in areas, in segments that we don't see a lot of venture capital and angel money going to. They're creating companies that help mothers. They're creating companies for the elderly, products and services in these gigantic markets. But they're not the kind of companies that are started by that 25-year-old engineer that we see on the Silicon Valley television show. They're the kinds of entrepreneurs that are building products and services for people every day. Unfortunately, they don't always find the money. They don't always find their way into the big dollars, and that's not good for any of us. What I see is an opportunity to back the kinds of companies and the kinds of teams and the kinds of products that I want to see succeed in the marketplace. So I put my money and I put my time behind those kinds of companies. Well, what I think is important for being a successful angel really are three things. First is that I like to invest in areas where I have expertise. So I don't go out looking at all kinds of different companies. I go out specifically looking where I have known networks, where I know what's new, where I know what's happening, and I know who the leaders are in the space. So that's number one. Number two is that I rarely invest only by myself. I like to invest with groups. I like to invest with other people that are investing in my space and in my stage. And I like to be able to share the work. That way it takes a lot less time, and frankly, I get better outcomes. And it's a lot more fun when I'm investing with others. And then I'd say the third thing is that I diversify my money. I decide what I'm going to invest for the year, and I spread it across 3 or 4 or 5 companies. It's very hard to pick which company is going to be the most successful starting out. So if I put a little bit of money into a number of companies, I'm most likely to have better outcomes. So I invest in what I know, I invest with friends, and I invest among a number of companies. So Alicia and I created the Rising Tide Fund because we saw an opportunity to create a really new and innovative way of investing. I think there are a lot of areas in our lives where there's not that much difference between how men and women look at life. But when it comes to our money and when it comes to investing, we really have some very different ways of thinking about it. And one of those is that we're much more contextual about our investing. We're much more likely to want to make a difference in the world around us with our families, with our money, and make a return. And so we look at investing in a much broader way. So that's what we saw for one of the reasons when we were creating Rising Tide Fund. The other is we created Rising Tide Fund because I had trained venture capitalists for 20 years, and I believe the systems that are in place work very well for the people that are leaders in the field. But women weren't involved 30 or 40 years ago when these systems were created. And so the Rising Tide Fund is an opportunity to greenfield create a way of investing that is designed specifically for how women like to organize, how they think about their investing, and how they work together as a group. So it's really a new model of collaborative investing. And we hope that it's the first of dozens, if not hundreds of funds that use this new collaborative investing model.